Hi, it's Anna here. Thanks for tuning in. So in today's video, I want to talk about the fact that the number one priority on this path is to reconnect and strengthen our own inner guidance system. This is a path of self-mastery which requires full responsibility for this path on our journey and full sovereignty. So, when we start on this path and we are thrown into this path, we are woken up, there's a strong call to start seeking information, right? Like we want to seek the knowledge, and that makes sense because through knowledge we expand our awareness, and through knowledge we do the inner work. But it's important to know that there are a lot of people, and that has been studied, it's called the Dunning-Kruger effect. There are a lot of people who tend to overestimate their level of knowledge or how far they are on the journey. And so they tend to share from a very limited perspective. And not having acquired the necessary experience and wisdom to actually be in a position to share, right? There's a level of overconfidence that happens early on in the journey. So it means that a lot of people who are sharing are not only sharing from a lack of experience and embodiment, but also they tend to repeat, what's out there, instead of having done a deep dive into the actual original concepts, which is why it creates a lot of confusion for people. So understanding that is paramount at the beginning when you are seeking information. But there are also other levels to this. At different levels of your own journey, at different levels of frequency, if you refer back to the map of consciousness, from David Hawkins, and I did a video on that, you will resonate with different topics. There's also the fact that you need to be mindful that you don't necessarily always resonate with truth. Sometimes what you resonate with is your own trauma or your own fear and grief at this particular time. So it's important to build the muscle of discernment to discern the difference between the two. And ultimately also understanding that this journey is unique for every individual. Yes, there are overall concepts that can help us, there are overall themes and guidance that can help a lot of people, but ultimately this journey is so individual. And so you have to tune inwards, you have to build that muscle of discernment, and you have to build that inner guidance system. That is your job. Nobody else can do that for you. Nobody else is in your body feeling exactly what you're feeling. Nobody else had the life that you've had, the past life that you've had, the patterns that you have. So it is your job. In everything that you do, you should always run it past your own inner guidance system. And so because we've all been so distracted living in this society, there is a process that needs to happen at the beginning, but it's an ongoing process where you need to reconnect within and then refine the feelings, refine the attunement, so that you can build that discernment muscle. And so this process happens through your body. This is so important to understand. The body is the vehicle of ascension, the vehicle of awakening, and you need the body. You need to utilize what you've been given. The body is a technology, it's an intelligence, it's an amazing tool to use on this journey, and you absolutely need it. So it's about attuning within and creating space in your day-to-day life for stillness to be able to actually tune back in. At the beginning of this journey, I was doing 20-minute meditations every day. Now I don't really need that anymore. I just go in to ground in nature and spend that time. But I do that every day. It's a practice that I do. It is my spiritual practice to tune in constantly, to reconnect within and feel that guidance. And this is how you develop the psychic abilities that everyone has been gifted with, which are clairsentience and claircognizance. So what I mean by this inner guidance system is a combination of things. It is emotions. Emotions are an amazing inner guidance system. It is our GPS. They're always messengers. So tuning into that can really help us understand where we're at, but also what actions we need to take. But I'm not only talking about emotions, though. I'm talking about connecting into subtler and subtler forms of sensations within our body. So it comes through emotions, but it comes through various sensations. Like for me, for example, sometimes I feel a pinging in my gut. Sometimes I know people feel this fire in their solar plexus, or like aches and pains, or like sometimes it's just a knowing that comes. So it's, building that muscle. The more you connect back within, the more you will build that muscle, to the point that the spiritual will, the soul's guidance, will become stronger than the ego will, than the ego's wants and desires. At this point on my journey, I just cannot not follow my soul's guidance, because the muscle has become so loud. Sometimes I try to distract myself, or I want to take my time with something, and then it feels like the pinging, like the metaphorical tapping on the shoulder, that it won't leave me alone. But what I want to make clear, though, is that it didn't happen by chance. It's a process. We have been born in this society where we completely become disconnected, especially if you've gone through any kind of abuse. These experiences tend to disconnect you from your body, from your thoughts, your body, from everything. And so you have to tune back in. I mean, everything is actually designed and catered on a societal basis to disconnect you from your own guidance. Everything is designed to externalize your power. You have this desire to go to seek the knowledge, and find different gurus and seek that guidance outwards. And there's nothing wrong with seeking guidance from teachers, coaches, or healers, but you should never put anyone above you. You should always run anything that you hear or listen to or read past your own inner guidance system. Because again, that journey is so unique to you that nobody, can do it for you, or nobody can give you the exact step-by-step process. Like, it actually doesn't work that way. There's a level of maturity that needs to come on this journey where you fully understand this. This is up to you. You're in charge. I mean, your soul's in charge, but it's a co-creative process. Like, your active participation is required in building that discernment muscle. Another thing that I want to say as well on this discernment is that there's various things that you need to discern, right? You need to discern what's yours and what's not yours. I know that for us, the givers, the empaths, the ones who tend to be leaning too much in our light aspect, we have this tendency to take way too much ownership for a lot of stuff, including what's not ours. So reconnecting within and developing the ability to discern more and more nuance and subtleties inside of ourselves allows us to discern what's ours and what's not ours. But also understanding that there is no one size fits all, and there is no one answer. A lot depends on context and circumstances, right? And so then the most powerful thing to understand is that you need to, so every day by day, situation by situation, moment by moment, you need to tune in. You need to tune in, because one thing that might be the best for someone at this particular time might be the worst thing for you. As an example, surrender is a big part on this journey, right? But surrender can be the best thing for someone who tends to be a bit too controlling and needs to learn to go with the flow a bit more and learn to surrender to the soul's guidance. But surrender can also be the worst thing for someone else when they're using it as an excuse not to take actions in their life. Does that make sense? Another discernment as well that I've noticed is that it's very important also to discern what's an actual trigger and what's a healthy expression of anger. That's a clarity that that took me a while to understand, because there is so much vilification of the emotion of anger out there, and understanding the difference between reactive anger and righteous anger becomes paramount, especially for us, the empaths, the givers. I've done many videos on this to explain this, and it's very important to understand that a trigger, which is an overreaction that actually has nothing to do with the present moment and has to do with some past situation, some wounding, some trauma, some limited perception that is clouding our judgment, right? Versus the emotion of anger that rises from a clear boundary being crossed and firm boundaries needed to be put in place and expressed. And it becomes very easy to understand in the context of parenting, for example. And I do have a parenting channel if you ever want to check that out. I've got the link to that channel in the description of all of my videos. But with children, there are times where what's coming out of you is more like reactive anger because you are tired, exhausted. So yes, you need to learn to regulate yourself, meditate, take time apart, apologize, whatever. But also, on the other hand, sometimes firm boundaries have to be put in place with your children. So it's understanding that difference. And like I said, on this path, this is the path of self-mastery, and you've probably have heard before people saying that this path is all about self-awareness and knowing yourself. And what does knowing yourself mean? It means that. It means what I'm talking about. It means building that inner guidance system. You are your own guru. Nobody else is your guru. Sometimes, reaching out to a teacher, a coach, or a healer can be amazing. It can really help you to get some clarity. But the best coaches, healers who are worth their weight in gold are the ones who actually always bring it back to your own power. Always bring it back to you. They ask you pertinent questions. They don't give you all the answers because they understand that it's actually doing you a disservice. They understand that the most empowering thing to do is to remind you of your own power, to give you the skills and the tools that you need to empower yourself so you can navigate this journey on your own. So I hope this is helpful. This is a topic that's very close to my heart, a topic that I've spoken about for many years, including in my previous channel. And this is the number one priority and the most important skill to actually develop first and foremost when you start on the journey, but it never stops. It's a muscle that you continually build. And I have a practice even now, 8 years later, to tune inwards every day, to question myself, to feel the subtleties, so that I always come back to my soul guidance, and I don't get caught up into any loops and traps or any limited perceptions or so that I can be completely honest with myself. I hope this is helpful, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.